Ladies and gentlemen, a powerful truth most people don't want to hear is this: the louder you announce your plans, the weaker your focus becomes. The world doesn't need to hear your next move, it needs to feel your results. Silence strengthens focus in a way that most people only understand after they've experienced the cost of distraction. When you constantly talk about your plans, your goals, and your next moves, you unintentionally divide your attention. Part of your energy goes into explaining, convincing, and seeking reactions from others instead of being fully invested in the work itself. Focus requires depth, and depth cannot exist where there is noise. Every conversation about what you intend to do pulls you slightly away from actually doing it, and over time, those small shifts in attention become the reason progress feels slow or inconsistent. When you choose silence, something powerful begins to happen within you. Your thoughts become clearer because they are not influenced by outside opinions. You begin to rely on your own judgment instead of adjusting your direction based on what others think or expect. This creates a stronger connection between your intention and your action. Instead of scattering your energy across multiple conversations and reactions, you channel it inward, where it can be used to build discipline, sharpen your skills, and stay aligned with your purpose. There is also a psychological effect that comes from speaking too much about your goals. The moment you share your plans and receive acknowledgement or praise, your mind experiences a sense of completion. It feels like progress has already been made, even when nothing tangible has been done yet. This illusion weakens your drive because your brain has already tasted a reward without earning it. Silence removes that false reward system. When you keep your goals to yourself, the only way to feel satisfaction is through real effort and real results. This keeps your motivation pure and your focus sharp. Silence also reduces the pressure that often comes from external expectations. When people know your plans, they may ask about your progress, offer unsolicited advice, or even express doubt. All of this creates mental clutter. Instead of focusing on your own path, you start thinking about how to respond, how to prove yourself, or how to meet their expectations. This divides your attention and weakens your consistency. In silence, you are free from that pressure. You move at your own pace, guided by your own standards, without the weight of constant observation. Another important aspect of silence is that it builds resilience. When you are not relying on others to validate your journey, you learn to trust yourself more deeply. You develop the ability to keep going, even when there is no applause, no recognition, and no immediate reward. This kind of inner strength is what separates those who start from those who finish. Focus is not just about concentration, it is about endurance, and endurance is strengthened when your motivation comes from within rather than from external noise. Silence also sharpens your awareness. When you are not busy talking, you are more present. You notice your habits, your patterns, and your areas of improvement more clearly. You become more intentional with your time and your actions. This level of awareness allows you to make better decisions and adjust your approach when necessary. It creates a feedback loop where your focus leads to progress, and your progress further strengthens your focus. In a world that constantly encourages you to share, post, and announce, choosing silence becomes a form of discipline. It is a conscious decision to protect your attention, your energy, and your vision. It allows you to build something meaningful without interference, without distraction, and without the need for constant acknowledgement. And in that quiet space, where there are no expectations and no noise, your focus becomes unbreakable, guiding you steadily toward the results you once only talked about. Avoiding the need for validation is one of the most powerful shifts a person can make when trying to grow, yet it is also one of the most difficult in a world that constantly rewards visibility and approval. From a young age, many people are conditioned to seek praise, recognition, and acceptance from others, and over time, this habit becomes deeply rooted in how they measure their worth. When this mindset carries into personal goals and ambitions, it creates a dangerous dependency where progress feels meaningful only when it is seen, liked, or acknowledged by others. When you constantly look for validation, your decisions begin to change. Instead of choosing what is right for your growth, you start choosing what will be appreciated or admired by others. This subtle shift pulls you away from authenticity and places your focus on perception. You begin to care more about how things look rather than how they actually are. This can lead to chasing goals that don't truly align with who you are, simply because they gain attention or approval. Over time, this disconnect creates frustration, because even when you achieve something, it doesn't feel fulfilling if it wasn't genuinely your path. Letting go of validation means learning to trust your own judgment. It requires you to believe in your direction even when no one else understands it. This is not easy, because there will be moments of doubt, moments where silence from others feels like disapproval. But those moments are necessary, because they force you to develop inner confidence instead of relying on external reassurance. When your belief comes from within, it becomes stronger and more stable, unaffected by opinions, trends, or temporary reactions. There is also a hidden cost to constantly seeking validation, and that cost is distraction. Every time you share something with the hope of getting a response, a part of your attention becomes tied to how people react. You check for feedback, you think about comments, you replay conversations in your mind. All of this consumes mental energy that could have been used to improve, to learn, or to take action. Over time, this habit weakens your focus and slows your progress, because your energy is divided between doing the work and watching how others respond to it. When you stop seeking validation, you regain control of that energy. Your attention becomes fully available for growth. You begin to measure progress based on effort, consistency, and improvement rather than applause. This creates a healthier relationship with your goals, where the process itself becomes meaningful, not just the recognition that might come from it. You start to value discipline over attention, and that shift alone can completely transform your results. Another important aspect of avoiding validation is emotional stability. When your self-worth depends on how others respond, your emotions become unpredictable. Positive feedback may make you feel confident, but criticism or silence can quickly bring doubt. This emotional fluctuation makes it difficult to stay consistent, because your motivation rises and falls based on external factors. By removing the need for validation, you create a more stable mindset. Your confidence is no longer tied to reactions, which allows you to keep moving forward regardless of what others say or think. Choosing not to seek validation also strengthens your independence. You become less influenced by trends, less affected by opinions, and more focused on your own path. This independence allows you to take risks, to explore ideas, and to grow in ways that might not always be understood by others. It gives you the freedom to fail, learn, and improve without the fear of judgment holding you back. In the end, avoiding validation is not about isolating yourself or ignoring feedback completely, but about shifting the source of your confidence from outside to within, so that your actions are guided by purpose rather than approval, and your progress is driven by commitment rather than the need to be seen. Comparison quietly erodes progress, because it shifts your attention away from your own path and places it onto someone else's journey, which was never meant to be yours. The moment you begin to measure yourself against others, you lose clarity about what truly matters to you. Instead of focusing on your own growth, your own pace, and your own purpose, you start evaluating your life based on someone else's milestones, achievements, and timelines. This creates a constant sense of either being ahead or falling behind, neither of which supports real progress. When you compare yourself to others, you often do so without understanding the full picture. You see the outcomes, the highlights, the visible success, but you don't see the struggles, the sacrifices, or the failures that led to those results. This incomplete view creates unrealistic standards for yourself. You expect your progress to match someone else's results without having lived their journey. This disconnect leads to frustration, self-doubt, and sometimes even the feeling that you are not doing enough, even when you are putting in genuine effort. Comparison also steals your focus by introducing unnecessary distractions. Instead of investing your energy into improving your own skills, habits, and mindset, you begin to spend time observing what others are doing. You analyze their choices, their speed, their success, and in doing so, you lose valuable time that could have been used to build your own progress. Focus requires attention to be directed inward, toward what you can control, but comparison constantly pulls that attention outward, toward things that are beyond your control. Another dangerous effect of comparison is that it alters your motivation. When you are focused on yourself, your motivation comes from growth, from becoming better than you were yesterday. But when comparison takes over, your motivation shifts toward competition. You begin to chase success not because it aligns with your purpose, but because it proves something to others. This kind of motivation is unstable because it depends on external factors. If someone else moves ahead, you feel discouraged. If you feel ahead, you may become complacent. In both cases, your consistency suffers. Letting go of comparison allows you to reconnect with your own journey. It gives you the space to define what success means for you, independent of anyone else's standards. This is important because not everyone is meant to follow the same path. People have different goals, different timelines, and different starting points. When you accept this, you stop rushing your progress and start respecting your own pace. This creates a healthier mindset where growth becomes steady and sustainable rather than forced and stressful. Focusing on yourself also helps you recognize your own improvements more clearly. When you are not distracted by what others are doing, you become more aware of your own progress, no matter how small it may seem. These small improvements build confidence over time because they are real and personal. They are not based on comparison, but on genuine effort and consistency. This kind of confidence is much stronger because it is rooted in your own experience rather than in how you measure up against others. Another important aspect is that removing comparison reduces negative emotions such as jealousy, insecurity, and self-doubt. These emotions consume energy and create mental barriers that slow down progress. When you are free from comparison, your mind becomes clearer and more focused. You can direct your energy toward learning, improving, and taking action instead of dealing with unnecessary emotional weight. In a world where it is easy to constantly see what others are doing, choosing to focus on yourself becomes a deliberate act of discipline. It means protecting your attention, staying committed to your own path, and trusting that your journey will unfold in its own time, without needing to match or compete with anyone else's timeline or achievements. Silence protects your energy in ways that are often underestimated, especially in a world where constant communication, opinions, and noise are seen as normal. Every time you share your plans, your thoughts, or your next move with others, you open the door to their reactions, and not all of those reactions will serve you. Some may bring doubt, some may bring criticism, and others may unintentionally shift your mindset. Energy is not just physical, it is mental and emotional, and once it is scattered across too many inputs, it becomes harder to stay focused and consistent. When you choose silence, you create a boundary around your energy. You decide what enters your mind and what doesn't. This boundary is important because not everyone will understand your vision, and not everyone needs to. The more people you involve in your plans, the more perspectives you invite, and while some advice can be helpful, too much input creates confusion. You start second-guessing yourself, questioning your decisions, and losing clarity about your direction. Silence reduces that interference and allows your thoughts to remain clear and aligned with your purpose. There is also a subtle drain that comes from explaining yourself repeatedly. When you talk about your goals, people often ask questions, challenge your ideas, or expect updates. Responding to all of this requires effort. You spend time and mental energy justifying your path instead of walking it. Over time, this becomes exhausting, and that exhaustion can reduce your motivation. Silence removes the need for constant explanation. It allows you to conserve that energy and invest it directly into action. Another way silence protects your energy is by shielding you from negativity. Not everyone you share your goals with will be supportive. Some may doubt you, not because your goals are unrealistic, but because they are projecting their own fears and limitations. Hearing these doubts repeatedly can slowly influence your mindset, even if you try to ignore them. Negative words have a way of lingering in your thoughts, creating hesitation and uncertainty. By moving in silence, you reduce exposure to that negativity, keeping your mindset stronger and more focused. Silence also helps you maintain emotional balance. When you are constantly sharing and receiving feedback, your emotions can become tied to how others respond. A positive reaction might give you a temporary boost, while a negative one can bring you down. This emotional fluctuation makes it harder to stay consistent because your energy rises and falls based on external input. When you keep your journey private, your emotional state becomes more stable. You are less affected by outside opinions and more grounded in your own progress. Protecting your energy through silence also enhances your discipline. It forces you to rely on internal motivation rather than external encouragement. Without the habit of sharing for validation, you learn to push yourself even when no one is watching. This builds a deeper level of commitment because your actions are no longer driven by the need to be seen or acknowledged. Instead, they are driven by your own standards and your own desire to improve. In addition, silence allows you to stay present. When you are not busy talking about what you plan to do or what you have done, you can fully engage with the work itself. Your attention is not divided between action and communication. This presence leads to better quality work because you are fully immersed in the process. You notice details, you make better decisions, and you become more effective in your efforts. Choosing silence is not about isolating yourself completely or refusing all forms of communication. It is about being intentional with where your energy goes. It is about recognizing that your focus, your mindset, and your progress are valuable and they deserve protection. By limiting unnecessary conversations, opinions, and distractions, you create an environment where your energy remains strong, directed, and aligned with your goals, allowing you to move forward with clarity, consistency, and purpose. Consistency over conversation is a principle that separates those who merely talk about success from those who actually achieve it. It is easy to speak about goals, to describe plans, and to imagine the future in vivid detail, but none of that creates real progress unless it is backed by repeated, disciplined action. Conversations can feel productive because they give the illusion of movement, but in reality, they often replace the hard work required to move forward. The more time you spend talking about what you intend to do, the less time you spend actually doing it. And over time, this gap between words and actions becomes the reason many people remain stuck. When you prioritize conversation over consistency, you begin to rely on intention instead of execution. You may feel motivated in the moment, especially when discussing your ideas with others, but that motivation is temporary. It fades quickly if it is not followed by action. Consistency, on the other hand, does not depend on how you feel in a given moment. It is built on commitment, on showing up every day, regardless of mood, energy, or circumstances. This is what creates real change, because progress is not the result of a single burst of effort, but of repeated actions over time. Another important aspect of this principle is that talking too much about your goals can reduce your sense of urgency. When you express your plans and receive positive feedback, your mind interprets it as progress. You feel acknowledged, and that feeling can trick you into believing you are closer to your goal than you actually are. This false sense of achievement lowers your drive to take immediate action. In contrast, when you focus on consistency, your only measure of progress is what you have actually done. This keeps you grounded in reality and pushes you to keep moving forward. Consistency also builds trust, both with yourself and with others. When you repeatedly take action, you begin to trust your own ability to follow through. This self-trust is powerful because it strengthens your confidence and reduces hesitation. You no longer question whether you will take action. You know you will because you have proven it to yourself through your behavior. Over time, others may also begin to notice this reliability, not because you talk about it, but because your actions demonstrate it. This kind of trust cannot be built through words alone. It requires consistent effort. Focusing on consistency helps you develop discipline, which is more valuable than motivation. Motivation comes and goes, but discipline remains. There will be days when you don't feel inspired, when progress feels slow, or when distractions seem more appealing than your goals. On those days, conversation offers an easy escape, a way to feel engaged without doing the work. But consistency requires you to push through those moments and continue anyway. Each time you do, you strengthen your discipline, making it easier to stay on track in the future. Another benefit of prioritizing consistency is that it simplifies your focus. Instead of constantly thinking about what to say or how to present your plans, you concentrate on what needs to be done. Your energy is directed toward action rather than explanation. This clarity makes it easier to manage your time and effort because your priority becomes clear. Take the next step, then the next, and keep going. Over time, these small, consistent actions compound into significant results. Consistency also allows you to learn and improve more effectively. When you are actively working on your goals, you gain real experience. You encounter challenges, make mistakes, and find solutions. This process of learning by doing is far more valuable than discussing ideas in theory. It helps you refine your approach and become better over time. Conversation can inspire, but only action can teach. Choosing consistency over conversation is a commitment to turning your intentions into reality. It means valuing effort over expression, progress over promises, and discipline over temporary excitement, allowing your actions to define your journey rather than your words. Letting results speak for you is one of the most powerful ways to build credibility, confidence, and lasting impact. In a world where many people feel the need to constantly explain, justify, or promote themselves, choosing to rely on your actions instead of your words sets you apart in a meaningful way. Words can be persuasive, but they are temporary. They can create expectations, but they cannot fulfill them. Results, on the other hand, are undeniable. They do not need explanation because they are proof in themselves. When you focus on producing results rather than talking about your intentions, you shift your mindset from seeking attention to creating value. Instead of asking how you can be seen or heard, you begin to ask how you can improve, how you can grow, and how you can deliver something real. This shift is important because it aligns your energy with what truly matters. Attention fades quickly, but value endures. When your efforts lead to tangible outcomes, those outcomes become your voice, communicating your dedication, your discipline, and your capability without the need for constant explanation. Relying on results also builds a deeper level of self-confidence. When your belief in yourself is based on what you have actually accomplished, it becomes stronger and more stable. You are no longer dependent on praise or approval to feel confident because your confidence is rooted in evidence. Each result you achieve reinforces your trust in your own abilities. This creates a cycle where action leads to results, results build confidence, and confidence encourages more action. Over time, this cycle strengthens your mindset and makes you more resilient in the face of challenges. Another important aspect of letting results speak is that it reduces unnecessary pressure. When you talk too much about what you plan to do, you create expectations not only in the minds of others, but also within yourself. These expectations can become a source of stress, especially if progress is slower than anticipated. You may feel the need to constantly prove yourself or explain why things are not happening as quickly as you said they would. This pressure can distract you from the actual work and affect your focus. By staying quiet and concentrating on results, you remove that external pressure and allow yourself to work at a pace that is sustainable and effective. Results also carry a level of authenticity that words often lack. Anyone can make promises, set goals, or describe ambitions, but not everyone follows through. When your actions consistently lead to outcomes, people begin to recognize your reliability. They trust what you do because they have seen it, not because you have told them. This kind of trust is powerful because it is built on experience rather than perception. It creates a reputation that speaks on your behalf, opening doors and opportunities without the need for self-promotion. Focusing on results helps you stay grounded in reality. It keeps you aware of where you truly stand, rather than where you think or hope you are. This awareness is important because it allows you to make better decisions. You can identify what is working, what needs improvement, and what should be adjusted. Words can sometimes create an illusion of progress, but results provide clarity. They show you the truth, even when it is uncomfortable, and that truth is what allows you to grow. Another benefit of this approach is that it protects your energy and focus. When you are not constantly explaining your plans or defending your progress, you have more time and mental space to invest in your work. Your attention remains on execution rather than communication. This leads to higher quality efforts and more meaningful outcomes. Over time, as your results accumulate, they create a strong foundation that supports your long-term success. Choosing to let results speak for you is a commitment to substance over appearance, to action over intention, and to proof over promises, allowing your work to define your identity and your progress to communicate everything that words never could.